A very good afternoon to everyone. Welcome. I'm going to have a session today that's going to include sharing with you some techniques that you can use for yourself as well as for your children to be introduced to some mindfulness techniques to calm their mind and their emotions. So I'm going to first lead you in what we call the finger breathing practice. So if you all raised your hand up and use a finger to place on the side of your thumb. And what you're going to do now is just to trace it. So I'd just like to invite you to trace and see if you can feel the sensation of your finger moving along the side of your fingers as you trace. How does that feel? Can you feel the tactile sensations? And you can now trace backwards and focus on the sensations. Okay, so this is effective for especially younger children to use this as a mode of focusing their mind and their breath while they are doing this tracing. So let's now close our eyes, place the finger that's going to be moving at the side of the hand. And as you focus on your breath, feel the sensation of the finger moving, tracing all your 5 fingers on the other hand. And now I'd like to invite you to follow your finger upwards and taking the breath in and breathing out on the finger going down. And you can pace the movement of your finger sliding up with your in-breath and sliding down with your out-breath. So the speed of your sliding is in accordance to your breath. Take your time, there's no rush. Let's do one more round. Okay, and now open your eyes. I'd love to hear from you. How did that work for you? Did it help you to focus better as you are feeling the sensations of your finger tracing the other hand. Thank you. So the next practice I'm going to share with you is counting as you breathe in and counting as you breathe out. So this is the 5-10 breathing technique. So as you breathe in, count 1 to 5, and as you breathe out, 6 to 10. So go breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you count this quietly in your mind. And when you have a mind that's pretty calm, you can let go of the counting and just focus on your breath. So for the next 5 minutes, we're going to do this practice. Close your eyes. First, let's take 3 deep breaths. And the next deep breath, count 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now let's not do deep breathing. Just let the breath be normal. And just use the counting as you sense your in-breath. Count quietly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when you notice your body breathing out, then it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So just use this technique. Breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathing out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let the breathing be natural. Just use the counting to help your mind focus on the breath. If you feel that your mind has calmed down and it's pretty happy to just stay with your breath, you can let go of the counting. And once you notice your mind darting again to all over the place, then resume the counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as you breathe in. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as you breathe out. Letting the breathing be natural. And as your mind calms, just sense how your body is feeling now. And refocus now on the breath. And if your mind is not steady on the breath, just resume the counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as you breathe in. And 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as the breath exhales. Let the counting follow the breath, not the breath following the counting. Just noticing how this counting helps your mind to stay on the breath. When you observe that the breath has become very shallow, just enjoy hanging out with the shallow breath. You no longer need to count. It's normal if your mind goes into thinking, and just bring the mind back to the breath very gently. And now just focusing on 3 more beautiful breaths. And slowly opening your eyes. Okay, how were the 2 practices? Something different that you can now also impart to your children. Finger breathing, as well as 5-10 mindfulness practice. So breathing in 1 to 5, breathing out count 6 to 10. So I hope it worked for you as well, because a lot of times when the mind is very busy, can't stop thinking, this technique is very useful. It's like a bicycle training wheel. Use it until you get the balance. So just count, don't be embarrassed to use it. And then when your mind starts to be more settled and your breathing starts to be more calm, then you can let go the counting. Just like you're on a bicycle, once you know how to balance, you can remove the training wheels. But today I thought I'll talk about how do we handle people who may be aggressive towards us? Because last week I've been teaching on how to be kind and gentle to others, but others may not be kind and gentle towards us. I recall in my younger days working, there was a boss who was very aggressive and also had a very quick and hot temper. More quick than hot. It was quick, and then after that, he calms down. But when he gets angry, he can do very frightful things, like even punching into a door or throwing a fowl down the corridor. So I was very prepared that one day I could be facing the same predicament. like my other colleagues. Fortunately, I wasn't as young as my other colleagues when I joined the organization. I didn't join as a graduate. So I had mentally prepared myself for that moment to arrive. So in that one particular meeting, that was just him and myself, and he got pretty worked up over something he was looking at. Although that piece of information he was looking at was not contributed by me, I would have been a very convenient victim. So he was starting to show agitation, and his face started to turn red, and his muscles were obviously very tensed, and he started to raise his voice. And that was the moment I knew I had to stay calm. I took deep breaths, and then I said, "Excuse me, sir, when you have calmed down, then let's resume this conversation." I used his name, I didn't use sir, but it worked. I just collected my files and I gently stepped out of the room very calmly. From that time onwards, he has never ever raised his voice towards me again. And that showed that when I wasn't prepared to put up with his behavior of that sort, he didn't inflict it on me. He still inflicted on other people. So that also taught me that a bully picks his victims. So when we don't allow ourselves to be treated a certain way, then other people would cease to treat us in that way. So those of you who have children, you can go and complain to the school administration that your child is being bullied. But what's important is that you teach your children how to stand up for themselves by being able to say no. So when they say no at home, it is a good training ground. So instead of you being angry at him, it's to say, "Oh, so you don't like me to do this to you? Or you don't like me to make this request to you? So give me a suggestion. What would you prefer?" So it's not to get angry at him for saying no, but to also teach him how to be more creative in responding. And the fact that if he can say no at home, there's a higher chance he would stand up for himself when he's in school. Because bullies in school also pick on who they can bully. So what we need to do is to role model that. I remember having a relative, and because I was I was the youngest in the family, this relative would always treat me like a kid. Even when I was 30 years old, this relative would still treat me as a kid. And this relative would go, "Get me a drink." And I noticed myself not liking the way that I was being treated. But I also started to realize that I continued to be bossed around is because I allowed myself to. I would obediently go and get a drink for this person. So when I decided that this person needed to change his or her behavior, I needed to respond differently. So this time, when it happened again, I picked up my guts, took a deep breath and says, "You go get your own drink." That person was startled. And I just merely walked away. Not with a huff or a puff, but just walked away. "You go get your own drink." And from that day onwards, this relative no longer bossed me around. It's like an awakening for this person that, hey, I have grown up and I don't wish to be treated that way anymore. So in the development of mindfulness, it is not a case that we are going to end up being a doormat. Quite the opposite. We actually build up courage. Because what is the worst thing that could happen? My relative may have been upset. Okay. Just got to get used to it. that I no longer want to be treated that way. My relative would just have to reprogram his or her mind to have a different expectation. And in any situation of change, people are not going to be embracing it or be happy with it. And it takes time for them to readjust their expectations. What's important is that when we don't like something, that we can say in a calm manner so that people don't take us for granted, don't take advantage of us, or even to bully us. That is up to us. And if that bullying or the action is indeed a violation, perhaps touching us in places that it is not desirable or appropriate, then perhaps we have to take it up to a higher authority or the appropriate authority. So in practicing mindfulness is to build that courage. And that courage comes from having clarity of mind and the calmness to take an appropriate action that would be bringing about a better outcome. So if we have to say no in a calm, firm voice. There's no need to shout and scream. If someone says something that we don't like to hear, is to be able to take that deep breath and say, please don't speak to me that way. Or please don't use those words towards me. And then just walk away gently. This way, there's no argument. You're not going to get all worked up. And the person gets a very clear, strong message that you're not going to put up with it. You may have to do it a few times, but each time, do it calmly. I hope this little talk helps to give you a sense of renewed confidence. Okay, so now I'm going to look at some of your chats and Q&A. So the first Q&A question here is, when do you use this? How long to meditate? Use it as long as it works for you. I'm assuming you're using the counting of 1 to 5, 6 to 10. So once you feel that your mind has calmed down, is pretty much happy to stay with your breath, then you let it go. Just as in the case of using training wheels on a bicycle. Next question, how do I stop myself from judging a person who has some selfish traits and win at all costs mentally, even in a social setting? I think she's basically a good person until these traits surface. I know that my judgments will mar the relationship. How can I influence her? So whenever someone goes into that mode of me winning at the cost of everything, it is part of probably their sense of belief that they need to be assertive and they need to look after themselves because no one in this world is going to look after them. And this may come from how they are brought up or the influences that they have in life, especially in certain organizations or industry that they work in. So first of all is to understand that there is some preconditioning that has happened. So is to help them become aware of it. So when that person is calm and you're calm in the right time, right place, is to say to this person in a kind, gentle voice, hey, I really like you, but some things I find uncomfortable, or sometimes when I find it uncomfortable, is when you say these sort of things or act in this way. I'm not sure whether you're aware, but I feel very uncomfortable and it's just not you. So help the person become aware and let the person reflect on it. I hope that helps. Okay, another question here is, can someone with mild bipolar disorder attend mindfulness courses? What would be a suitable course from Brahma Center? I would recommend a person with a bipolar disorder to start with the foundation course because it's a very gentle course and it gives people a chance to learn a bit more about what mindfulness is, what is the fight and flight response, and some quick coping mechanism. So that will be a good start. But not to do long meditation practice would be an advice I would give to people with bipolar disorder. Just do very short, few minutes. Another question is, I went to attend a meeting and the opposite party used the 4-letter word with ladies in the meeting. What should I have done? Well, is to say to this person, excuse me, I think we find this word to be offensive. Some of us would take umbrage to that word. So I would like to request that you don't use that word as a respect for all of us. Okay? Using the word take umbrage is very helpful as well to put a smile on everybody's face. Another question. Sometimes I get angry when someone talks negatively about a mutual friend, even though there might be some truth in it. What is the best response? Well, to be able to say, well, I rather not talk about it. If we're going to talk about someone, let's talk about some positive things about them. So you let that person know that you're not going to be a participant in this gossip. Okay. Next question. In your example of the relative, what would you have done if she asked you politely to help get a drink? Yes, then I would get a drink. But it's when that person orders me around, I realized that it had become a habit. Because from young, that's how I was being treated. So in order for me to effect that change, I had to stop being compliant to the request that is made in a very harsh, or rather a very bossy tone. Yeah. So this person has stopped doing this now. Yeah. Next question. What if after you said your piece and walk away calmly, that person still shout at you, asking you to stop and stand there? Well, at this age, I should be able to just walk into the toilet and sit on the toilet bowl, or just step out of the house. I mean, we don't have to behave like a child anymore. This person is being unreasonable that we have to stand there and freeze and be terrified. So by walking away helps this person to realize that, hey, you can't treat me this way. Okay, I hope that helps. Another question here is, what are some other practical techniques to deal with aggressive, harsh people we deal with beside having courage to say no and mentally prepared for harshness, acceptance, and let go? Practical technique is not to respond. If that person wants to nag or a person wants to be aggressive and you don't wish to walk away, it's just sit there and just look at that person. And when a person is finished, you said, okay, thank you for sharing. And then you can leave. So what's important is to maintain that sense of calmness. Next question. If I don't mind being compliant and continue to get the drink for the relative, what are the implications? Well, that means the relative will continue to boss you in that way. And if you're okay with it, that's fine. It's when you feel that you no longer want to be bossed around, then you need to change the way you respond. Next question. Can someone with Asperger's syndrome learn mindfulness? Yes, but that person may take a bit longer. And using the finger breathing might be a more effective technique, because trying to focus the mind may be a little bit more challenging for someone with Asperger. So using a tactile sensation would be skillful. Okay, so if you have missed that part of what I shared earlier on, you can replay this recording when I'm posting it on YouTube. So with that, I hope it has been a beneficial session. Okay, one more question. What about people who are passive aggressive? Well, just let them be. I mean, if they want to be steaming in the anger and just being silent, let them be. But you can continue to be kind with calmness. So you go to that person and says, I think you are angry and I think you're suffering. Just like to let you know that when you're ready to resume a normal relationship or you like to speak again, I'm here. because I'm not angry at you. So be kind and gentle. And that is usually more helpful with someone who is passively aggressive than being aggressive in retaliation. I hope that is helpful. And I'd like to once again remind everyone to please share. If you are already registered, if you haven't, please don't hesitate, because we have an amazing panel of speakers and also workshop leaders. And do register for the early bird that ends June 30th. And also even the webinars, the free registration ends 30th of June. So we have more talks coming up. This Saturday is Art as Therapy for Trauma by Joyce Lowe, our counselor and art therapist. And there are art courses, mindfulness retreats, mindfulness courses, so don't miss them. And if you have an aspiration to be an MBSR teacher, please write into us. And lastly, we do have helplines, so make this known to your friends as well if they're in need of someone to speak to in confidence. So with that, thank you everyone for your kind attention, and see you again later this week. And join the Unwind at Sunset to stretch your precious muscles and limbs. Bye, everybody. Take care.